Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Watch Your Heroes Fall. This will be Part 9, Chapter 11, titled Phase 2, Scene 2, Smile for the Camera. On the kitchen table between them is a pile of newspapers. New villain makes flashy debut. Watch Your Heroes Fall. New villain catchphrase catching fire in online circles. UA scandal. How will the #1 hero school recover? The detective sitting across the table has been flashing headlines from online news sources all morning, but Midoriya Izuku prefers papers. You understand how serious this is, the detective Ishikawa says. Inko makes a show of swallowing her tears, of straightening her spine. She's not a great actor, so it helps that most of these emotions, the confusion, the heartbreak, the anxiety, are very real. I understand, yes. Then you understand how urgent it is that we find your son, ma'am. Oh, please call me Inko. Inko, then. Ishikawa gives Inko the tight-lipped smiles that teachers at Izuku's schools used to give her when she was called in for yet another incident. Incidents like, he should toughen up like the other boys, and he needs to learn to get along with others, and if he only wouldn't get Bakugo riled up like that. It's the same smile it's always been, always from someone who could hurt Izuku and will, but Inko has heard the mantra they tell themselves, that they're there to help her son, as often as she's seen that smile. It takes a lot from her to give Ishikawa a different smile to the one she gave those teachers. She's got to seem genuine here, scared and helpless and harmless. All Might is here, and to think, Inko was so cowed of him before, so in awe of the great hero. Well, the great hero almost got her son killed more times than Inko can count on her 2 hands. She still smiles at him. The great hero was the surest way to make Izuku smile once. He sets a comforting hand on her shoulder and reassures her again that they'll find young Midoriya. He'll find young Midoriya. She tells him not to blame himself, and he really shouldn't. Putting the world on a single person's shoulders is how this mess came to be. He was such a bright young hero, All Might says, and his eyes seem more sunken than ever. Inko resents those sunken eyes, resents the preemptive past tense. Ishikawa nods. I never met him myself, but his file doesn't present like a young villain. He frowns and parses through the thin folder of various paperwork he's built in the last 24 hours on Izuku Midoriya. This folio, unlike all the headlines Ishikawa prefers to read on his phone, is paper. Report cards of best-in-class scores since elementary school, police incident reports of villains that Izuku has stopped since starting UA, commendations and statements from mentors like Gran Torino and Midnight and even All Might himself. Ishikawa won't find what he's looking for in that file. Teachers never thought to write up any of the incidents of bullying. A pediatrician's chart from Izuku's frequent visits would look like an especially clumsy child, and all that clumsiness would be written off once Ishikawa saw the note in the box labeled Quirk Description. Inko knows that box would read quirkless/no quirk apparent, because they haven't been to Izuku's pediatrician since middle school. Ishikawa would see the box reading quirkless, and he would ask Inko how that's possible, since Izuku clearly has a quirk, since he got into UA. And Inko would tell him the quirk developed late. And Ishikawa would give her that flat little grimace of a smile and fabricate some way that the quirklessness explained away all the other injuries on the chart. Burns, scrapes, sprains, more burns, a broken bone on 2 separate occasions, occasional tinnitus, more burns. Quirkless kids always attract some kind of trouble. Izuku's 4th grade teacher had sighed to Inko when she tried to bring up Katsuki's bullying, like it was Izuku's fault for being bullied, and not Katsuki's for bullying him. That 4th grade teacher was the same one who made Izuku sit out of the festivities on the school's Quirk Appreciation Day, and Inko remembers Izuku coming home crying near the end of 4th grade, asking her, Mom, would Dad still be here if I had a quirk? And when she asked what Izuku could possibly mean by that, he told her that his teacher had said she certainly would have found an excuse to leave if her kid was born that way. Inko had raised hell with the administration, but the principal just started watching Izuku closer, as if he was the problem, so Inko dropped it. She wanted to switch Izuku to another school, but she couldn't afford private school, and he didn't want to transfer anyway. But Ishikawa won't find any of that in the file. All he has is the impeccable grades that were always making Izuku an exception, giving teachers a reason to hope he might be useful even for a quirkless person, making him one of the worthwhile ones. Inko? Ishikawa's face is pinched together. Are you all right? She notices All Might staring too, and As she relaxes her face, she realizes how strongly her brow had been creased, how sternly she had set her mouth. "Oh yes, I'm just fine, She tries to slump her shoulders, but it's hard when part of her wants to tell Ishikawa everything just to see his face. She settles for saying, "I'm just worried for him. He's all I have left." That much, at least, is true. "As are we all," All Might whispers. "The UA dorms are in uproar. The whole class is distraught. Izuku had friends who truly—" The great hero chokes back tears. "They all really loved him." Inko believes that. After years of being trained to see classmates as assailants, she can still believe that because Izuku always comes home with Shoto, and she's met half the class by now. On video calls, she has with Izuku once in a while, since he lives in the dorms now. She smiles sympathetically at All Might, but she also knows he holds the lion's share of the blame here. Todoroki has withdrawn considerably as well. All Might sighs. Inko feels her spine snap straight. "We're considering sending him home for a while to recover." It occurs to Inko to accuse All Might of being a psychopath, but she restrains herself admirably. Send Shoto home. He doesn't even go home for weekends. Any teacher should know that. Keep him at school. Inko may not know the details of why, but Shoto should stay at school if he's upset. But Izuku should have taken Shoto with him. Inko was sure he would. They're always together, and it made Inko so happy to see it. It made her a hypocrite, but all she can think of is when she asked Shoto to watch out for Izuku for her. He promised her he would. But now Izuku is off becoming society's venom, and Shoto is still at school. It's so much weight to have put on Shoto's shoulders. Inko knows this, but he had promised, and Inko had hoped, and now icy fear grips Inko's heart. "Inko?" Detective Ishikawa is giving her a funny look again. The man's not an idiot. She needs to put her act back together. The distraught mother, caught off guard by a wayward son, with no clue about his plans. If Ishikawa thinks she knows something, she'll be considered complicit, and the heroes and police will use her as leverage against her son. She can't have that. Izuku knows what he's doing, and Inko won't get in the way of that, but that icy fear makes her want to confess it all, just to try and reel Izuku back in. It would be a hopeless game, though, trying to get Izuku to come back before he's ready. When he was 6 or so, he went out to the playground while Inko was at work, determined to find buried treasure. He hadn't come home until 10 p.m., after Inko had been driven out of her head with worry, with a collection of yen coins he had picked up off the sidewalk, which he had given to Inko because the treasure can help you pay the mortgage. He had gone hunting for over 6 hours to find less than 300 yen to help Inko pay the mortgage. She had tried to keep her voice down when she talked on the phone to the bank, but her son had heard and spent hours trying to help. Izuku's not changed in that way. "Izuku didn't take Shoto with him?" Inko asks, trying to sound just surprised and not scrying. "Not even as a hostage or something?" "We know that Midoriya and Todoroki are dating," Ishikawa says, "which does make it peculiar that they didn't defect together." Defect, like they're soldiers instead of children. We usually see this pattern of behavior affect both members of a romantic relationship or close friendship. To leave a romantic partner behind implies that this was likely not premeditated. Ishikawa gives Inko a sympathetic grimace, like she might need it. "Inko, I don't want to alarm you, but we're treating your son's case as one of a psychotic break." Inko tries to gasp, instead of cackle, and she does all right with it. "UA's training methods are intense and erratic. Your son may just not have been suited for that kind of pressure." Not suited for pressure. Inko sobs into her hands to cover up the laugh that she's losing the battle of hiding. All Might rests a withered hand on her shoulder and says something comforting. Not suited for pressure. Ishikawa gives her another sympathetic grimace, as if he could actually understand how she's feeling. Not suited for pressure. These men don't know Izuku. Even All Might, the great hero, clearly has no clue who her son is. Izuku has never lived without pressure. School pushed him to excel beyond his stupid quirked peers. Heroism pushed him to study fight patterns until he could teach Inko how Kamui Woods has an advantage against multiple opponents in the kitchen while they did dishes together. UA pushed him to break his body in every conceivable way in the pursuit of someone else's safety. Inko always tried to keep their home free from the pressure she knew she couldn't protect him from outside their front door. But she knows that as a single mother working long hours to keep a roof and food, Izuku had pressure at home to help out more than a kid should need to. Not suited for pressure. "Do you have children, Detective Ishikawa?" Inko can't help herself. It's all she can do to not spit in his face and laugh at him and demand that he get out of her house. Ishikawa seems unnerved by the question. He shuffles the file in his hands and sets it down on the table. Inko realizes that he is stalling, which answers for him. Still, he eventually says, "No. No, I don't." And he swallows nervously, like he can see the fangs Inko isn't showing him, ready to rip out his throat for coming into her home and accusing her son of so much more than he's guilty of. If Izuku is guilty of anything at all, Inko has seen the footage. Not a single civilian was harmed in that little stunt. Inko wipes the tears from her face. Her mascara doesn't run. She wore waterproof today for this very reason, and because makeup always makes her stronger, somehow. She's always worn it to Izuku's parent-teacher conferences. She doesn't know how to respond to Ishikawa without outing herself, and by extension Izuku. She just gives him one of those sympathetic little grimaces back. Inko stands. She walks to the front door. Both men follow clumsily behind. She opens the door. She says, "I'm tired," with a wet little chuckle that convinces them both, because honestly, neither of them expect or want her as a suspected accomplice. Ishikawa returns his hat to his head, and he bows politely and leaves. All Might tells her if she needs anything at all, and then he bows politely and leaves. Inko returns inside. She sits on the couch. She watches the recorded newsreel of Izuku in a nice suit vest, a tie done the proper way, flyers and ash floating around him. She watches it again and again. She watches it on repeat until she falls asleep, and when she wakes up she finds that even waterproof mascara has a limit. In the UA dorms, every member of Class 1A tries visiting Todoroki in his room. He's barely moved for 2 days. Food trays are left by the door untouched. Aizawa got him to eat once by threatening to send him home if he didn't, but it seemed such a cruel threat. The things it did to Todoroki's eyes, that Aizawa hadn't had the heart to make it again. He doesn't go to class, and nobody knows how to make him. 2 people knock at the door and enter without waiting for a response. Uraraka has a bowl of cold soba, and Asui has 3 water bottles. They set it all down in front of Todoroki, who doesn't move to touch it. Asui says, "Todoroki, we need to talk." Uraraka adds, "About Deku." That gets Todoroki to look up, make eye contact with them. What he sees there makes him nod. "We do," he says, rasping. "Don't we?" All right, listeners. This concludes Chapter 11 of Watch Your Heroes Fall. Chapter 12 will be up next. Hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.